Yesterday's news, though, and I'm not gonna do the "I told you so." I didn't need to tell anybody this. This was an obvious and evident reality of what the NFL Players Association has been recommending to players this year as it relates to working out on their own versus working out at the team facility.
Yeah.
I've said it time and again. Work out at the team facility. You get free insurance as it relates to your salary for the coming year. Minimum. Free insurance. So if you suffer some sort of a freak injury, and with that many guys in the NFL, they're going to happen. Somebody's going to. I know that we individually think it's not going to be us. That's one of the defects, I think, of our genetic makeup. It's going to happen. And when it happens, it's going to be costly. And it's especially costly in a year when the NFLPA has made a fight over this issue of guys not showing up to work out at the facility, because if a guy does get injured away from the facility while he's working out to make himself as prepared as he can be for the season, teams are going to say, sorry, sucks for you. You're not getting paid. And Ja'Wuan James, Broncos tackle, who opted out last year, gave up $10 million in fully guaranteed compensation that got bumped to this year.
Yeah.
So it was still fully guaranteed.
Right.
Broncos were still on the hook for it. Now they're not, because he tore an Achilles tendon away from the team facility. Proving the point in an unfortunate way for Ja'Wuan James.
Yeah.
Get your asses to the facility, guys, at a minimum. Talk to your agents and find out what it would cost you if the same thing happens to you, because you now have a tangible example you can point to and say, hey, agent, what is this going to cost me and my family if I choose to go down to Planet Fitness today versus going to the team facility today? Tell me what it's going to cost if I have that freak, fluke, can't happen to me, but we see that it happens type of an injury. That's the message that all players out there need to heed and act upon. Find out what it would cost you if that injury happens away from the team headquarters.
Well, the next thing I want to say, I mean, you're right on everything, 100%. Do you think the Broncos are going to do it, though?
Yes,
they're
not paying him.
They're not.
They're not paying him.
Okay.
No way.
All right. So
I don't know that for sure. I've heard enough. Look,
you've heard enough
they're not
from
happy
teams.
the guy get injured.
Yeah.
They're not happy the guy get injured.
Right.
But they're happy that they can avoid this $10 million.
Right.
They moved on. He opted out. They moved on. Look, we fully and completely supported the guys who opted out last year. There was so much uncertainty, and nobody knew what was going on. The bottom line is this. If you stay away, and the NFL reminded all teams last month, you stay away, you get injured away from the facility, you don't get paid. Now, it's up to the team.
Yeah.
And sometimes the team will pay.
Right.
Terrell Suggs.
When
he popped an Achilles playing basketball.
Yes.
They paid him. I've had others. Who was it?
Yeah, there's others.
It was, we talked to a general manager about this. It was the flip side of the Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs telling him stop playing basketball. There was video of somebody else playing basketball.
And they said, go ahead.
I can't remember.
Right.
And they're like, we want our guys to go.
Either.
They know the limits.
Right.
They know how far they can go.
Right.
They know what they can do, and if you do get injured, they'll support you. Now, it's different if you do that in January, February when everything's shut down. You're out playing basketball instead of choosing to show up at the team facility, that's when they're going to get you. So they're not going to pay Ja'Wuan James his $10 million this year. And it goes beyond that. It's going to cost him more than that, but I'll tell you that in a second.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, you know, I wouldn't expect them to. I mean, again, I know this is a little bit of a civil war that's going on in the NFL. The coaches want the players there. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You know, they might say, hey, it's voluntary and all those type of things. But, gosh, Mike, you talk to enough GMs and coaches. I do, too. You know, I mean, it's come up a few times in conversation already this offseason with friends I have in the league. I mean, of course they want the players there. Yeah, it's voluntary. They're going to say all the positive things they want. But, you know, they feel like the guys that are not there at the facility are doing the team an injustice. And, you know, a lot of the times the coaches care about these players. They want to make them better, too. They realize they might not work the way they need to work unless they got, you know, somebody looking over their shoulder a little bit. But this is where, you know, it's a slippery slope. Like, hey, with Ja'Wuan James, okay, he opted out. he might be at the point of his career where you're like, I don't know if he's worth all this money, all those type of things. It's easy to cut the cord maybe on that type of decision there, and easy to get away with it in the locker room. But the only thing I'll say, Mike, and just as far as teams and maybe having to pump the brakes a little bit, is like the scenarios we've seen a little bit. Like a Terrell Suggs. What if it's a star of your team, one of those big-time players? Are they really going to take away the contract and everything like that? That's where I think the teams are going to have to be at least thoughtful or a little bit careful as they go down this path.
I agree with you. It's a case-by-case situation, team by team. And I think it's important for the player to understand and to have an assessment, an objective, neutral assessment.
That's what it is.
Through his agent.
Right.
What risk am I at?
Right.
If I don't show up and I blow out an Achilles down at Planet Fitness, what are they going to do to me? And if Ja'Wuan James had gone through that analysis based upon the fact that he was underwhelming in the first year of his 4-year contract that paid him a $12 million bonus,
right,
he had a bunch of other guaranteed money, that he opted out last year, so you already have a little bit of a scarlet letter even though you shouldn't. You already do. Do you love football?
Yeah.
Do you really love football? Are you all in? You walked away from $10 million last year. You didn't trust us to take care of you. Are you kidding me? And you throw on top of that $10 million carries over to this year. You're at risk of the team saying, we're not paying you, and maybe there will be another guy out there who is a star player, and it would be politically delicate in the locker room for the team to say, sorry, we're not paying you. But Ja'Wuan James is on the we're not paying you side of the equation. Myles Garrett's the guy that we saw playing basketball earlier this year.
That's right.
Kevin Stefanski, the Browns coach, who told me, I've told him this, I've told all our players, listen, you got to stay in shape. You need to do some things that get your cardio going. You got to do it safely. He's very well aware of that, and I marvel at his athleticism. That was Stefanski in early March. Just a week or so after that video of the Incredible Hulk playing basketball, get out of his way. So I don't think he gets injured playing basketball. I think he dishes out injuries playing basketball. If you're anyone else from the Browns, don't play basketball with Myles Garrett. Maybe that would be the message from Kevin Stefanski. But now that we're in the window where you can show up for work, it's voluntary. Okay, fine. Keep thinking that. You can show up for work. You can make your coach happy. You can make the team happy. And more importantly than anything else, you protect yourself and your family against the worst case scenario. And I get criticized all the time for worrying too much about the worst case scenario. When you practice law, when you are engaged in litigation, everything you do is a direct result of some worst case scenario happening. That's why people get sued. Something unexpected, something bad, something costly has occurred. You live your life digging into the facts, rebuilding what happened, applying the law to it, and either trying to find a way to get justice for someone who thinks they were wronged or defend someone who's accused of doing the wrongdoing. But it all flows from something bad happening.
Right.
So it conditions you to think and plan and prepare and avoid bad things happening. It's very easy here. I say this to any and all players who are out there watching the show, all three of you, and that may be on the high side of the over-under. Get to the facility and protect your salary. And if you have any doubts, talk to your agent and find out whether or not your agent agrees with our assessment. Number one, you're protecting your salary. The other thing for Ja'Wuan James, that guarantee is now voided. It's not like, okay, he'll get his $10 million next year. They can void the guarantee because of the injury that happened away from the facility. They can cut him and not owe him another penny. That $10 million, gone forever.
Right.
$5 million in injury guarantee for next year, gone forever.
Right.
And you know what they can do?
They can ask
the CBA last night.
Signing bonus
money, $3 million.
Right,
$3
I
million.
figured.
Somebody told me you could get $9 million that he'd have to forfeit because he got 12 and he's earned 3 and he's got 9 left. I think it's 3 because it goes 1 year at a time. If they keep him on the roster next year and he plays, then he earns the $3 million for next year from his signing bonus. This year's $3 million in jeopardy. So that's $13 million that he's going to be out, and he's not going to have the chance to earn it next year. I predict they'll void the guarantees. They'll cut him eventually, and that's going to be that for Ja'Wuan James, perhaps in the NFL. And that money that he had it was there.
Yeah.
Fully guaranteed. Skill, injury cap. All you got to do is show up and work.
Right.
And you go down to wherever he was, pop the Achilles, fluke injury, can't happen to me, happens to you, and that money is gone forever. Extreme example, but it proves the point. It proves the point, guys. At a time when the union leadership, the player leadership, I think the non-player leadership is kind of like, hey, knock yourselves out, guys. You know better than we do. You're the guys who are the players. You know when you can and can't work out and where you can and can't get injured, but, sometimes you're wrong. They're putting pressure on the rookies and the undrafted guys to not show up now. Are you kidding me? Beyond the fact that they need a place where they can go and have that financial insurance in the event of injury, they got to make the team. So I don't get it. I don't know what they're trying to prove. And you and I always support the players. We always support the union. We look for the way to say, hey, wait a minute, why are we always siding with the billionaires? Maybe there's some merit on the other side of this. I don't see the merit, and it was proven to us yesterday.
No, well, what we're doing here is it might seem like we're siding with the billionaires, but we're still siding with the players.
We're trying to protect the players'
exactly
money.
Right. We're still trying to. We're on the side of the players here. We're going. It's a bad way to do things. It's a bad way to do business. It's not helping you out, players. And this is the perfect example, the perfect type of player that a team and the NFL, I believe, will, like you've been saying, Mike, that's going to want to make an example of this situation. This is shot fired across the bow, whatever, flares in the air, warning flares in the air to guys that are going to be in similar situations now to where, hey, if the Broncos do what we think they are, that it's going to, perk up other guys who are in certain situations like Ja'Wuan James and go, what am I doing? Why am I working out at some personal gym, down here by my hometown and risking everything, by not being at the facility where, your insurance, you're getting coached, everything like that. They're taking always the well-being of the player at hand because they know there's a great investment in that player for the most times. And like you said it, when you're in the window of its workouts, they want you there at the facility. It'd be one thing if you hurt your Achilles or your ankle, like you said back in January or February. That's fine. Teams will be like, well, at least he was out trying to stay in shape and do it. That's a good thing. But now it's looked as a negative. And, the Broncos are in a tough spot. Because they got a position to fill now. I'm sure they're probably looking at it going, damn, I wish this would have happened before the draft so we could have maybe drafted a tackle. But I'm with you, Mike. I think they're going to make an example of him, and this might open some eyes with other players in the league.
They could also say, I wish it would have happened before Tuesday.
Yeah.
Because they could have tried to sign Alejandro Villanueva before he signed with the Ravens. We'll talk about that in a second.
Right.
But with Mike Munchak, the former Steelers offensive line coach in Denver, would have been an easy replacement. Now, they got by without Ja'Wuan James last year, but when you give that guy the contract they gave him in 2019, you want him to be there. You want him to earn it, especially when you owe him $10 million.
Right.
Of course, you're going to do everything you can to put him in the lineup. You're not going to have him stand on the sidelines and make $10 million. Now they get the best case scenario. Despite the fact that no team wants to see a player get injured, they have, in a year where the salary cap is tight, down $25 million from where we thought it would be, but for the pandemic, they had $10 million falling out of the sky, which could ultimately be very convenient when the time comes to absorb a certain $14.7 million base salary that a certain quarterback has who may end up being traded to the Denver Broncos at some point. They'll need a right tackle to protect him, but they just picked up $10 million in cash and cap space they can use to make the transaction work, Chris.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. There's no doubt about it. There's a little wiggle room, but I do think this is a little bit of an issue for their football team in general. Last year, they DeMar Dotson, they signed him. I don't know how they feel about some of the younger guys on their roster to fill the role here. That's going to be the big thing to watch going forward. I mean, they're a little thin at the position. They got a guy, Quinn Bailey, from Arizona State, who just got done with his rookie year. So, I mean, is he a guy that they looked at to take over that type of spot? So they're definitely going to have to dive into free agency here and see what's left over, and can they get lucky and maybe a Mitchell Schwartz? Can he get healthy enough to where they sign him? Something like that. But This is a team that's got a high-octane offense, and there's definitely a little issue here right now at right tackle.
Eric Fisher visited the Colts this week. He becomes a possibility.
Another one.
As well, put him on the right side if he's available. If I recall correctly, he played some right tackle earlier in his career.
I think you're right. He did.
Develop as a left tackle. You know, it took him a while to get going, and he finally did get going, so that would be another possibility.
Definitely.
But, yeah, Villanueva, a guy that Munchak knows very well, a guy that Munchak made into the player that he was in Pittsburgh. One day earlier, they would have had him. So, look, I again, this isn't I told you so. It is I shouldn't have had to tell you. We shouldn't have had to see this. This shouldn't have had to happen. This shouldn't have occurred. This vendetta, this saltiness, this whatever it is. Oh, we're upset because you rammed 17 games down our throats. Oh, we're upset because we don't get more money. Whatever it is. We want no off-season program because that protects veterans' jobs. And even though J.C. Treader, the president of the union, has said that's ridiculous, it's not ridiculous. Of course, if you don't give the young guys a chance to perform, they're not going to be as ready to compete when training camp rolls around. All these things, you got to make an individual decision. And Ja'Wuan James is now the guy that agents can point to say to their clients, stop listening to what the union's trying to tell you. Don't they realize how they are, if they keep pushing this, undermining faith in the union? If you have your union that is supposedly looking out for everyone, sending a message that actually jeopardizes millions of dollars in player salary and potentially puts them in a position where they have to pay back signing bonus money.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to have faith in that organization?
I'm with you.
They need
I
to
think
stop
it shows,
it now.
Yeah. It shows you the selfish of the veteran players once again. It's about that. That's the problem.
They need to issue a memo today saying we were wrong.
Yeah.
In light of what happened with Ja'Wuan James, we were wrong. They won't do it, but they need to come out and say we were wrong. Get your ass to work and protect your salary. Protect yourself. Protect your family. We were wrong. We're sorry. Forget that whole thing. We'll find another way to push back against owners who always have extra leverage against us because we won't strike, but they'll lock out and they'll not bat an eye if we miss a full season, and we just have to deal with that. Coming up with a fight that was completely unnecessary and gratuitous and harmful to Ja'Wuan James. Now, I don't know that he specifically wasn't there because of this NFLPA directive. Regardless, they should be telling these guys, you need to be there. This is free insurance. Yeah. The worst case scenario happens, you get your money. Why would you not want to be there?
Right.
This astounds me, Chris.
I know, Mike. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's a bad message from the NFLPA. Mike Kliss, by the way, from Denver, he's reporting that's why he stayed away for Ja'Wuan James. Well, and hey, it's a guy that COVID opted out. Had a COVID opt out too, and there was kind of some wrong messaging, in my opinion, too, with that from the NFLPA startup, that it wasn't a safe environment and all of those type of things. So, yes, if I was a player, I would certainly be looking at the corner of my eye right now about the leadership from the NFLPA and what the hell they're telling guys to do. And, yeah, it's cool if you're a veteran player to stay away right now, but you better be like a damn good player, star of the football team, one of the better players at your position in the league. J.C. Treader is that. He's the guy that he doesn't have to worry about that. He's really awesome. He's one of the better centers in football. He's made a ton of money. And that's, to me, where he's getting lost a little here with the greater good of all the other players. And that's no disrespect to J.C. Treader. I got a lot of respect for him as a player and what he does. I know it's not easy, but it's really only the star players, the top 3 or 4 or 5 guys on the team that are going to be able to get away with this, I think, going forward. Where if they got hurt, okay, they might not hold their feet to the fire and tell them they're not going to get their money, everything like that. But the middle class, the lower class, I'm sorry. I just think that, to your point and what you were saying all along, they're going to get made examples of here as we go forward because teams want these players back in the facility.
And if we didn't care about players and the money that they're due to make and the families that they have to support, we would be saying, it's no big deal. It's a fluke. It ain't going to happen. Look, that's a 1,000,000-to-1 shot. Okay. And you know what? If he hadn't opted out last year, maybe his Achilles wouldn't have popped. Maybe he'd have been in better shape. I mean, that's the stuff we'd be saying, not use this as your wake-up call. Use this as the shot across the bow. Use this as the thing that convinces you that the right place for you to be, if you're going to be exerting yourself physically in any way, shape, or form, is in the team facility. And Mike Kliss of 9 News in Denver reported yesterday that Ja'Wuan James had been working out at the team's facility until he decided to honor the NFLPA recommendation to stay away. Now, I don't know that that's 100% accurate, but I know this. Kliss didn't get that from Ja'Wuan James. Kliss got that from the Broncos. And that gives you an insight into the attitude the Broncos are going to have about this. They're going to be following what the league has suggested, which is you get one of these guys that decides he's going to stay away because the union wants him to, and he gets injured.
Oh, that's going to piss him off even more. Sorry, Liverpool. But, yeah, that's going to piss him off even more. Sorry, Manchester. The fact that they were there and then they left because of that's going to be even more annoying to the organization. And they're like, yeah, because like what you said, you opted out. Hey, they're going to be like, hey, Grady's back in the building. Let's, we get to mold the clay a little bit here before the training camp starts and get them ready to go once again. Wait, what? You're leaving? Why? Because the NFLPA? What? Okay, all right, man. Good luck. Make sure you keep working out and staying in touch. But yeah, bye, see you later. And then they walk in the other room with the other coaches, and they're going, damn, Ja'Wuan James is going to leave and listen to the damn NFLPA. You believe this crap? I mean, that's what's going on behind closed doors there in the NFL with these type of conversations. The coaches are laughing. It's a joke. They're angry. They're pissed off. It makes no sense. It doesn't. And the coaches aren't doing it from the standpoint of like, oh, we're looking at these guys like a piece of meat. They're looking at it like, hey, yeah, we want to get better as a team, but they're going to make these guys better by being there and all of that. But the other thing, Mike, and I'm just going to go to it if you don't mind, like we got the other side of the story with Quinnen Williams, where it's the perfect thing that could have happened yesterday, from apples to oranges, to say, look, here's one that's not a story because it's done the right way, and there's no worries that this guy has after an injury.
Yeah, foot injury suffered by Quinnen Williams, the Jets defensive lineman, a top 5 draft pick a couple of years ago. He is reportedly out until training camp with a foot injury. Now, not out for the season, so not a big deal from that perspective, but still, the injury and the potential fallout, it's all covered by his salary. He doesn't jeopardize his guarantee. See, here's what happens. If you've got a fully guaranteed salary, and Quinnen Williams, because of his draft status, does, you get that injury away from the facility. The moment that you are unable to practice for a mandatory event, mandatory minicamp, that would trigger it.
Right.
Guarantees void. So if you're not a great player, even if you're fully healthy, when week 1 rolls around or when training camp rolls around, they voided your guarantees. You're gone. It's over. You're cut. We don't owe you anything. See, that's the problem for Ja'Wuan James. The PS to the story was he may not be out for the full season, depending upon what they find during surgery.
Right.
It's not going to save the $10 million.
No.
$10 million is gone. He'll be cut before he's back by the end of the season. He can play for somebody else.
Right.
But I think the Broncos are, that's it. Void the guarantee, cut from the roster, see you later, $10 million. That's that.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Mike. I mean, it's going to be kind of interesting to watch it go down because it's not going to be popular within the locker room. It's not, but I think these are tough decisions that teams are going to make to make an example, no doubt about it. And, yeah, Quinnen Williams doing things the right way. Yeah, you're right. And, Mike, you're right. It's mandatory things. It's, again, a guy like Quinnen Williams, if he was bothered and then it did leak into the season of him not being 100% and all of those type of things, there's a lot of issues you could have, even if you did get a 10-week injury here, away from the facility. And if it doesn't get back to, like you said, hitting on all cylinders, ready to go to practice on mandatory events and play football, you're in deep crap. You're in deep crap, and that's where these players got to really think twice about what they're doing.
And you mentioned the coaches are the ones who want the guys there. This is a point we made when this issue first came up. The owners don't care. You're trying to put pressure on the owners. They don't care. It's not costing them any money if these guys stay away.
It's costing them less.
Have a facility. Yeah, they don't have to pay the per diem.
Yeah, they don't have to pay all the food and feeding everybody and everything. It's a huge cost cut for them.
Well, and think about this. The young guys, the rookies, the undrafted guys, what do? They put them up in a hotel. They don't have to find an apartment. They don't have to find a place to live. It's free room and board for the young guys who are being pressured, or at least were being pressured as of Monday, to not show up for the off-season program, so they would show solidarity and brotherhood and not go in and impress the coaches and have them maybe decide to keep those undrafted guys in late-round draft picks instead of veteran players who could be cut and save a bunch of money. So the owners never cared about this. If anything, hey, the owner of the Broncos, and there isn't one now, the trustees who run the Broncos picked up $10 million and now can get away from a guy that they probably wish they hadn't signed to a 4-year, $51 million deal back in 2019.
Yeah, that's right.
It's actually a win for the Broncos organization, and it's a win for the league because it does allow, and I don't know how many shows are going to be talking about it this way in this kind of blunt terminology, but this is the message to the players out there. And I'm not going to say, take it from us, show up for work. Take it from us, talk to your agents.
That's
about what you may lose if you do have the Ja'Wuan James injury down at Planet Fitness or working out in your backyard or, down in somebody's basement with the weight set that they bought at Sears 20 years ago. Just ask your agent what it is that you're risking if that happens. That's the message, because I just wonder whether those conversations ever happened. If they did between Ja'Wuan James and his agent, I think he would have been at the facility.
Yeah, I would think so too. I would. It's tough for the players. It's tough because you are stuck in the crossroads of you want to support players. And I'm sure as an offensive line group and things like that in the Denver locker room, there was probably conversation and they decided to band together and, hey, we won't do this. We're not going to be here and do all of those type of things. But, from everything you've said, I think you're spot on as far as your advice to the players. And that's what I would say to the players too. This is one where, yeah, I know you want to support and be a team guy and everything like that. You got to be selfish here. Not everybody's contract's the same way. Not everybody's status on the roster is the same way. And you got to, like you said, hey, agent, what does this mean for me? Not your other player who's got a $100 million contract and is definitely going to start. What about me, middle-class guy who's going to have to fight for this position or not necessarily a star of the team? And that's where I think the players got to go back to the drawing board here.
Even though it's a union, it's so different from the normal union. And I don't know how normal or abnormal it is, but, we're not talking about a group of workers at a facility who are all making about the same amount of money and they're all subject to the same issues and concerns.
Yeah,
and
it's not that.
And risks.
Right.
It's very different. It widely diverges. And ultimately, you got 90 guys working in each of the 32 shops right now, and 37 of them aren't going to be there when the season rolls around. That in and of itself shows that there's a difference. And you got guys with guaranteed money that may be jeopardized. You got all sorts of shapes and sizes. This blanket approach, everyone stay away, but otherwise get yourself ready for the season. It just can't work. It can't work, it won't work, and it's not working, especially not for Ja'Wuan James.
No, I know, Mike. And the last thing I wanted to say, I'm sorry I was going to butt in there, is just but that part of it too. There's only like a handful of guys, and it's really the star players who have had a really good career and everything's gone positive to where they buy into everything NFL. NFL is great because it's been great to me, and I haven't been hurt, and I'm getting rich, and I play, and this is awesome. The rest of the guys in the locker room are pissed off at the NFL. They feel like they've gotten screwed over. Teams have, not been loyal to me. I haven't been paid what I deserve. I got injured, and then they, devalued me, and so most of the league is like anti-NFL to a degree as far as how things are run and how they've been treated. There's very few happy people in the locker room, and that's where you're right. It's a totally different place than the normal union setting where everybody's in the same boat and everybody has the same circumstances. It's not that way, and that's why I think sometimes it's favored and tilted towards those guys who are like in the power position or the happiest or like the NFL is great, this is awesome, everything like that. And that's where there is a disconnect there in the locker room between all these guys.
And there definitely is a point if you've got general discontent about the way you've been treated and the way that the coaches regard you and the pressure that gets put on. There's a point, though, where you got to put that bag down.
Yeah.
And you got to get yourself ready for the season.
Yeah.
And you got to do it in a way that protects your income, protects your family, protects everything you care about financially. And if you work out on your own, you are putting yourself and your family and your ability to pay your bills and your ability to live the lifestyle that you're currently living at very real risk. For what? For what? For what? If it is true that Ja'Wuan James was working out at the facility and left at the recommendation of the NFLPA, what did he really give up $10 million for?
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.